There's something tragic about being a god by contract. The life of an NBA player is, at first glance, a modern epiphany. Sculpted muscles, ecstatic lights, applause that shakes arenas, and bank accounts that could make a banker blush. The public sees them as heroes of an athletic gospel, saints of a televised religion where sweat is the new sacrament and entertainment, the salvation. But there's something deeply ironic about all that adoration. Because behind every spectacular jump, there's a silent fall. And what the world calls glory, the narrator calls a cage. Gilded, yes, but a cage nonetheless. NBA players are men trained to fly but forbidden to land. From a young age, they learn they are not people, they are products. Products with expiration dates, evaluated by statistics and discarded with the same indifference used to switch off a light after the show. The crowd loves them, but only as long as they keep jumping higher than everyone else. The love of the public is conditional, like the affection of a man for his prize horse. One injury, one mistake, one bad season, and the adored hero becomes a forgotten number, or worse, a failure. The luxury is so overwhelming that even misery seems elegant. Mansions with more rooms than friends, cars worth more than human relationships. The player smiles in interviews, but his soul remains locked in a locker room that smells of sweat, spray, and solitude. Inside, young bodies stretch, cameras flash, and the illusion of power feels divine. But the first pain in the knee is enough to remind him that even gods age, and that the body, no matter how trained, is still flesh destined to collapse. In training, there's a military discipline disguised as passion. They wake before dawn, not to admire the sunrise, but to ensure no other man takes their place. Every shot is a prayer, every miss a sin. The coach is the priest, and the team owner, the god. He decides who will be glorified and who will vanish into the shadows. The player knows this, which is why he smiles even when he hates. Sincerity is a luxury the NBA does not allow. Fame, contrary to belief, is not a blessing, it's a sentence. Players live under the constant gaze of millions, and no gaze is crueler than expectation. They are watched in everything: what they wear, what they say, who they sleep with, what they post. The world demands perfection, but takes pleasure in downfall. And when the fall comes, and it always comes, it's televised in high definition. Because nothing sells better than the public destruction of a man who once seemed invincible. At parties, the brightness is blinding, but the silence is deafening. There's music, laughter, champagne, but also the awareness that it's all temporary, sustained by a system that feeds on youth and performance. Agents whisper deals, brands whisper numbers, and women whisper promises that evaporate by morning. Deep down, everyone knows. No one loves anyone there. Love, like everything else in that world, is a transaction. The player comes home late, exhausted, surrounded by luxury and emptiness. The house is too big, the silence echoes against the walls, and the clock in the kitchen ticks with mathematical cruelty. He looks at his hands, the same hands that once held the ball as if holding destiny, and realizes what he has lost: anonymity, freedom, the right to fail. Nothing is more expensive than success, and in the NBA, the price is paid in installments of the soul. There is also the cult of the body. The player's body is both altar and prison. It must be perfect. Every muscle, every tattoo, every expression. The media sculpts him into a modern demigod, but one misunderstanding, one poorly phrased comment, and the same public that adored him crucifies him. The athlete learns early that public loyalty is like a contract. It expires when the show ends. And then comes the cruelest irony of all: money. It solves everything, they say. But what money never buys is rest. The player lives surrounded by wealth and emotional poverty. He learns to invest, to multiply, to appear financially wise. But something inside him decays. Because no investment cures the feeling of being loved only while useful. Money brings comfort, but comfort rarely brings peace. The youngest ones enter the league as if entering paradise. Smiles, million-dollar contracts, promises of eternity. And the veterans watch them in silence, like ghosts who already know the ending. They look at the rookies and see old versions of themselves, full of faith, unaware of the price, believing the glow will last forever. Perhaps that is the NBA's greatest cruelty. It sells a dream but delivers a cycle of rise, worship, and oblivion. When the body finally gives out, the player discovers what he truly was: a fleeting spectacle, a number on a spreadsheet, a slow-motion memory. Retirement arrives like a funeral disguised as a tribute. He puts on the suit, smiles for the cameras, thanks the fans, and pretends he isn't dying inside. Because that's what retirement means: the death of the character he played all his life. The audience applauds, the narrator falls silent, and the man who was once a myth becomes just a common name. And what remains after? Some become commentators, others businessmen, a few simply vanish. Social media keeps showing flashes of past glory, but no one sees the real man. The one who wakes up at night not knowing who he is without the uniform, the one who realizes he spent half his life playing for the world and not a single play for himself. There's a morbid beauty in all this. The system is perfect in its cruelty. It turns poor boys into millionaire idols, only to return them to emptiness with more money than purpose. And the public applauds, convinced they're watching a story of triumph, when in truth they're witnessing a slow corporate tragedy, masked as success. In the end, being an NBA player is being a modern gladiator. The Coliseum now has air conditioning and 4K cameras, but the logic remains the same: blood, sweat, and spectacle. The crowd roars, commentators narrate, sponsors smile. And at the center of it all, a man jumps, believing for one fleeting moment that the air belongs to him. But the air doesn't belong to him. It belongs to the contract, to the logo on his chest, to the crowd that worships him today and forgets him tomorrow. He is merely the intermediary between desire and consumption, between myth and reality. His greatness is measured in seconds of broadcast, and when the lights of the arena go out, only the muffled sound of his own breathing remains. Ironic, isn't it? The American dream, the one that promised freedom, ends up turning men into prisoners of luxury. The NBA is the perfect portrait of modern civilization, where success is the new religion and human sacrifice the most profitable show. In the end, it's not a pity to be an NBA player. It's a pity to be human. Because ultimately, we are all playing the same game, trying to jump higher, run faster, please more eyes, all believing that if we're perfect enough, we might be loved. But like the players, we all discover sooner or later that the public's love lasts only for a season. And when the final buzzer sounds, when the arena falls silent and the lights fade, what remains is only the echo of a dream that was never ours, and the distant sound of a ball bouncing like a heart that insists on playing even after the game is long over.